Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, authorities. It's really a great pleasure to welcome you to this official open ceremony of the HTAi 2024 in Seville. After a warm welcome reception yesterday, I see you all are here and prepared to prepared to embark in a challenging and productive conference. Seville is a city with a lot of cultural, historic, different ideas. It's an open city, and now it's a perfect environment for new moves in the HTA world. This year, our theme is sustainability, networks, and innovation. And this is really in line with the, let's say, the thought of the HTA collaborative network. I encourage you to participate in all the activities of the program, to contribute to the sessions where you can learn, share, and also be part of the discussion. So I would like to begin. Thank you to all for being here, and also in particular to my team and the HTA coordination staff. HTA 2024 could be a milestone for the future, for having a better health for all in terms of outcomes. Now I will introduce another members of the local organizing committees. We will have also some national and regional responsibles. So we have with us, I will present also, they will speak and welcome you one by one. So we have Gonzalo Balbontin, that is our general manager in the Health and Progress Foundation. We have also the pleasure to have here our Secretary General from the Regional Ministry of Health and Research, Development and Innovation. And we have also from the Ministry of Health, the General Director for the Common Portfolio of the National Health Service and Pharmacy, this is Cesar Hernandez. So please, Gonzalo, take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, José Antonio. Good morning to all. Welcome to the city of Seville. As a managing director of Health and Progress Foundation, it's a great honor that you are here today in Andalusia. The annual international meeting of health technology assessment is being held in Seville for the first time, hosted by the Andalusian Regional Ministry of Health and Consumer Affairs. On behalf of the Progress and Health Foundation, it is a privilege to host distinguished professionals from the health technology assessment agencies, clinicians, researchers, and industry experts worldwide to discuss and share knowledge on health technology and their evaluation. The rise of new technology poses a challenge in healthcare system, making such evaluation crucial. This meeting provides a platform to dialogue on developing tools and frameworks for assessing tools technologies. I would like to acknowledge the Andalusian area of health technology assessment for co-organizing this event and their critical work in ensuring efficiency, quality, and equity health service. Their efforts were crucial in organizing the event and promoting Andalusian leadership in health technology assessment. Thanks a lot, José Antonio, and for your team. Congratulations. The event promises deep discussion, experience sharing, and learning opportunities, with a focus on international collaboration to support and innovate health solutions. The Progress and Health Foundation welcomes participants, wishing them inspiring and successful days in Seville. Thank you.
Well, good morning to everyone on behalf of the Spanish Ministry of Health. I'm very pleased to be here. Although I work in Madrid, 500 kilometers from here, I live actually 20 kilometers from this place. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to sleep one more night in my home and not in Madrid. Anyway, just to highlight the importance of HTA, we are in a context where, the pressure for, the constant scientific advances and growth and new technologies, explosion, together with the pressure and the expectations from the population to get access to these technologies as soon as possible, makes mandatory that we have some kind of discussion of agreement among all of us in order to ensure, first, equity in the access, second, that this is sustainable and affordable for the health system. So for us, it's a must that this HTA work really adds piece of value to the decision-making process, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to address all the challenges that we have ahead. In the national context, we are very close to release for the public audience a new piece of regulation on HTA that we really hope that may help us to first make it coherent with the EU regulation and EU development, and also to take the best of the HTA in order to this decision-making process. Nothing else, just to wish you a very fruitful discussion and a pleasure stance in Seville. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Seville. Let my first words be an affectionate greeting from Health and Consumer Affairs Ministry, and the best wishes for all of you in this meeting. Thank Juan Antonio for your invitation. It's for me a pleasure to stay here today. Welcome to the 2024 annual meeting on behalf of the Local Organizing Committee and Local Planning Group. Welcome to Andalusia. We are thrilled to have you all here. More than 100 people registered. Thanks a lot of. Thanks the company of the table, Mr. Gonzalo Balbontín, Manager Director of the Progress and Health Public Foundation, and Dr. César Hernández, General Director of the Common Portfolio of National Health System Service and Pharmacies of the Ministry of Health of Spain, from Spain. By participating in this meeting, we want to show our support for the Health Technologies Assessment. Progress and Health Foundation, Health Technology Assessment Unit, is in charge of supporting healthcare decision-making related to health technologies in the region of Andalusia, Spain, to improve health outcomes, the qualities and equity of the Andalusian health service and the sustainable of the system. Progress and Health Foundation develops clinical practice guidelines and evidence-based recommendations, and as part of the specific line of work, produce methodological documents which, in addition to serving as a guide for the Health Technology Assessment Committee, can be useful for assessment in health centers and the health services research community. Foundation and Health Technology Assessment Unit collaborate actively with the Integrated Care Processes Strategy of the Regional Ministries of Health and Consumer Affairs and the Regional Use of Medicines Strategies of the Andalusian Health Service. Health Technology Assessment Unit also has an important role as an advisor in the Screening Commission, the Vaccine Commission of the Andalusian Public Health System, and the network of provincial committees for new and emergency technologies. I encourage you to share experience, to debate, to continue moving forward. I hope you can also enjoy this wonderful city. Welcome again to Health Technology Assessment International Meeting 2024. Good day, good job, and thank you for all.
Now we have a message from our Spanish Health Minister, Mónica García, where you can realize how relevant and important is HTA in our country. Thank you.
Distinguidos miembros de HTA International, colegas y amigos del ámbito de la salud, lamento profundamente no poder estar presente con ustedes en persona en este importante evento, pero me honra tener la oportunidad de dirigirme a ustedes a través de este mensaje. Quisiera comenzar reconociendo el papel fundamental que HTA International desempeña en la promoción de la evaluación de las tecnologías sanitarias a nivel mundial. Su liderazgo y su esfuerzo incansable para establecer estándares rigurosos y compartir las mejores prácticas son pilares esenciales para la mejora continua de la calidad de los servicios de salud en todo el mundo. Gracias a HTA International, la evaluación de las tecnologías sanitarias se ha convertido en una disciplina que es robusta, que es respetada, que hace de guía de las decisiones informadas y equitativas en el sector de la salud. Aprecio profundamente el enfoque multidisciplinar que HTA International defiende, asegurando que las evaluaciones de las tecnologías sanitarias sean verdaderamente integrales y que consideren múltiples perspectivas y dimensiones del problema. Esta visión holística es indispensable para entender y abordar la complejidad de los desafíos sanitarios que tenemos por delante. Vivimos en una era donde el desarrollo de la tecnología sanitaria es global. La cooperación internacional no es solo deseable, sino que además es esencial. Enfrentamos desafíos que son comunes y juntos podemos aprovechar las oportunidades que de otra manera quedarían fuera de nuestro alcance. La colaboración y el intercambio de conocimientos entre los países son vitales para fortalecer nuestras capacidades de evaluación y de mejora de los resultados en salud a nivel mundial. En España estamos en pleno desarrollo de una legislación específica para la evaluación de las tecnologías sanitarias. Este proceso se nutre de las experiencias globales y buscamos activamente compartir y aprender de las mejores prácticas internacionales. Creemos firmemente que estos aprendizajes enriquecerán y perfeccionarán nuestros procesos nacionales, asegurando una evaluación de las tecnologías que esté alineada con los más altos estándares de calidad y rigor. Nuestra visión de una evaluación efectiva pone en el centro, como siempre, a los pacientes. Es crucial que las evaluaciones reflejen las necesidades, las preferencias y las experiencias de quienes serán los beneficiarios directos de las tecnologías sanitarias. Solo así podemos garantizar que estas tecnologías realmente mejoren la calidad de vida de quienes más las necesitan. Un principio rector de nuestra labor es que todas las decisiones se tomen basadas en la mejor evidencia disponible. Promover la equidad en el acceso a las tecnologías sanitarias innovadoras y eficaces es para nosotros una prioridad. Todos los pacientes, independientemente de su situación geográfica o socioeconómica, merecen tener acceso a soluciones de salud avanzadas que pueden transformar sus vidas. Reconocemos también la importancia y el desafío que supone el uso de los datos del mundo real. Estos datos nos permiten comprender mucho mejor cómo funcionan las tecnologías en entornos cotidianos y en poblaciones diversas. Aprovechar este potencial es crucial para hacer evaluaciones más precisas y relevantes, reflejando fielmente el impacto real de las tecnologías sanitarias. Por último, no podemos ignorar el impacto que las tecnologías digitales y la inteligencia artificial tendrán sobre la HTA. Estas herramientas no solo permitirán análisis más rápidos y precisos de grandes conjuntos de datos, sino que también representarán nuevas áreas de evaluación como las aplicaciones móviles y los dispositivos portátiles. Debemos estar preparados y adaptarnos para liderar estos cambios. En conclusión, agradezco a HTA Internacional por su compromiso y liderazgo. Su trabajo es esencial para garantizar que las tecnologías sanitarias se evalúen de manera rigurosa, equitativa y centrada en el paciente. Juntos construiremos un futuro donde la tecnología sanitaria mejore la vida de todos y de todas. Muchísimas gracias.
As you may be aware, we have a new HTA regulation in the European Union, and it's for us really a great pleasure to have here José Antonio Valverde, this policy officer leading the implementation of this new regulation. Please welcome.
Good morning, Spanish authorities, Andalusian authorities. Good morning all. First, many thanks to the board of the committee, of the organizing committee, for inviting the European Commission and have this opportunity to address you. Basically, for me, it's three times a pleasure to be here because, I'm working right now in the team that is putting in place the HTA regulation, the European Union Health Technology Assessment process in Brussels, in DG Santé, but I was also the former director of the Andalusian Health Technology Assessment Agency. And so it's a pleasure to be back, and as a citizen of Seville, a great opportunity to be back in my hometown. Without going into much further, I want to send or to convey you three main messages. One is that the EU HTA is really the result of more than 20 years of collaboration at European level. It started back in the early, in the morning of this century, and putting in place a lot of different agencies and people working on this direction. Now, 27 member states plus Norway and Iceland are working together in this process. Where we are now is on the 12th of January of 25, we are going to start doing the joint clinical assessment for oncological products and advanced therapies. And this is in 6 months. De facto, the pre-submission and pre-initiation processes are starting already. As a second message, the three key elements or priorities for the European Commission when putting in place a process like that. And the first is transparency. Transparency meaning that all stakeholders involved, patients and their organizations, the industry and their organizations, the clinicians, and the public administrations are present in all the meetings, in all the organizations. Second, or in this aspect also, that the European Commission is procuring the secretariat of this system as a way of working in what we call the better regulation. And the third is something that is very new also for the European level, which is the management of the conflict of interest, which is driving even changes in other instances. This is the first tertiary legislation in Europe on conflict of interest. The second principle is trust, because the products that this joint clinical assessment, joint scientific consultations, methodologies are going to produce have to serve all the member states to make the decisions. Therefore, the third principle is high quality. So, the methodologies have to be proven, has to be agreed, have to be the latest, and have to be for sure for purpose, for what we want to do. And the same, they have to involve all the stakeholders into producing these high quality results. Otherwise, we will not have, as it was mentioned by the Minister of Health of Spain, the different perspectives needed in the joint clinical assessments. The third message will be the European Commission is committed with this process. We are supporting the HTA coordination group and its subgroups. As Secretariat, there have been more than 60 meetings of high level during the last 18 months, but we are also putting in place all the tertiary legislation, which are 6 implementing acts. The first of them is already published, the second is on consultation, and 2 more are coming during the summer. And the last one is that we are putting also in place the platform that is going to allow for the infrastructure or the the IT and the joint work. Finally, HTA is a very good example at European level of what is the construction of the European Health Union. And I think this is very important. This is an enormous challenge to put in place a process that will join 27 member states plus the EFTA countries, which means that the rest of the world will be having a look at what we are going to produce. And it will impact a lot of countries that do not have the possibility to do these assessments. It is also because what we are going to put in place is running in parallel with the marketing authorization processes, which means that 1 month after the MAA market, or the stamp of EMA, there will be a clinical assessment of the drug that has been recently put into the market. So basically this process, and I like going back into the beginning of the century to put in place a citation, that one about evidence is global, the decision is local. And we have not to forget that the final objective of this is that we put in the hands of the patients and the clinicians effective health technologies as soon as possible. So I am also delighted to see that there are so many sessions in this conference that deal with this process, and the Commission is here to listen and to hear what are you doing, to take notes of the advances in the methodologies, and I wish you a very fruitful conference, and many thanks to all.
Finally, I would like to ask you for a big applause for our authorities for participating in the ceremony. Thank you. And now, continuing with the open ceremony, I invite our HTA President, Rabia Sucho. Please welcome.
Well, it's so exciting. I hope some of you were in the welcome reception and you enjoyed the evening. And now it's a pleasure to be here in this morning before the conference. Distinguished guests and dear colleagues, welcome to the HTAi 2024 annual meeting in the beautiful and historic city of Seville. It's an honor to open this event that promises to be a landmark gathering for the global HTA community. The HTAi annual meeting provides an incredible forum where HTA stakeholders can engage in meaningful dialogue, knowledge sharing, and collaboration. Our discussions here will be instrumental in shaping the future of HTA on a global scale. I would like to thank our local hosts, the International Scientific Program Committee co-chairs and members, local organizing committee co-chairs and members, and the HTAi Secretariat for their dedication to making the HTAi 2024 annual meeting the incredible event that it is. As we begin our journey, annual meeting journey, I urge each of you to bring your diverse perspectives to the table. Let us approach our discussions with an open mind and a spirit of respectful interaction. The HTAi Code of Conduct starts with saying HTAi is a professional society and expects everyone to act with respect and courtesy at all times. I want to take a moment to reflect on that. The strength of HTAi lies in our diversity. Each member from different corners of the world contributes unique perspectives that are vital for the innovative and inclusive development of HTA. I have seen firsthand how diverse teams within HTAi collaborate on projects that no single culture could have shaped alone. We often say that the recent technological breakthroughs have ushered us into a globalized world, but the truth is we have been living in one for quite some time. For some, this global opening happened early in life, while some of us had a later introduction. Maybe for some of us it's just first time today. But regardless of when these changes occur, they profoundly impact how we interact, how we communicate, and how we understand one another. In my speech last year in Adelaide, HTAi annual meeting in Adelaide, I reflected on how overcoming adversities together has flourished our community. Today, I build up on that narrative by emphasizing the need for empathy and a personal touch, a human touch in all our interactions. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, is crucial in our work. It helps us connect on a deeper level, not just as professionals, but as humans striving for a common good. We are now starting our 3-day journey with the annual meeting. The more you put into your annual meeting experience, the more you will benefit. We have a wealth of opportunities that you may get involved. Please attend as many presentations as you can. Take part in HTAi interest groups. Engage with our exhibitors and presenters to learn about their work. Join our dedicated networking sessions. This year, the annual meeting is boasting a new offering called Brain Dates. This innovative platform will set the stage for new collaborative partnerships, projects, and opportunities. Please join the Brain Dates. That will be fun as well. So please talk to each other, share, listen, exchange cards, and brainstorm together. As we move forward, let us keep our minds and our hearts open to the differences that enrich us. Let us commit to continually learning from each other, not just as professionals, but as inhabitants of this increasingly interconnected world. I want to express my utmost gratitude to each and every one of you here today. We, in HTAi, we shape the future of HTA at a global scale, and we do it all together. Thank you for your commitment to HTA, to HTAi, and for your personal commitment to embracing and celebrating the diversity we have here. Once again, welcome to the annual meeting, and please enjoy. Thank you. And now I would like to invite 3 very key people who contribute to the success of this meeting. I'm inviting to the floor the co-chairs of the International Scientific Program Committee, Laura San Pietro Colom, Iñaki Gutierrez Ibarlucea, and Adriana Robayo, please. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Welcome, everybody, again. Welcome to Seville. And I'm Laura San Pietro Colom. I'm from Barcelona, Catalonia.
Egunon, I'm Iñaki Gutierrez Ibarlucea. I'm from the Basque Country in the north of Spain.
Hello, I'm Adriana Robayo. I'm from Colombia, Bogota, Colombia.
Okay, so first of all, thank you again so much to being here to share your knowledge, your experience, and your work with all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So as you can imagine, to reach this point today, to being here, is a long journey. We can tell it's really a long journey. And that journey starts choosing the topic of the conference. And choosing the topic is a collective effort from a lot of people. And I would like to thank all the International Scientific Program Committee who have helped us to build the program this year. And what we can try, or we aim to try choosing the topic, is to identify what's keeping up at night the doers and users of HTA. So we think that the topic of this year that is a turning point for HTA, sustainability, networking, and innovation. These are 3 areas that we are really keeping it up at night to all of us. So, with the International Scientific Program Committee, we have put together a program that aims to stimulate, as our president said, the debate, the dialogues among us, and especially around these 3 topics, sustainability, networks, and innovation. But also, why we are starting to widen our professional contacts and also our networks. So please, as our president said, just talk one with each other and try to meet people. And especially, I would like to thank the new generations of HTA, the young people that is joining us here for the first time. That is what will bring HTA in the future to another stage.
I've been the member of many ISPCs, and this has been the tougher role that I've played ever, and quite tougher, because we have been in need to reject more than 40% of the proposals. We have received more than 800 proposals here. I can say that we were in need to evaluate, that is the role of the ISPC, 43 workshops, 93 panels, 262 orals, and more than 400 posters. That means that we were in need to reject more than 40% of the proposals because we have no space for them. It is a pity not having some of those, and especially because we think as a society that we have a growing interest in this sense. But on the other side, that shows the interest of the community for HTA, and that also gives the society more chances to grow and more chances to do more activities along the year. If we go to the top 5 countries submitting proposals, I know that you are eager to know. We have more than 100 proposals coming from UK. So this triggers us also more thoughts. The second was Brazil. So I think we need to do more things in Latin America, and that is a clear message to the society. The third one was Spain. So there's more than 70 proposals came from Spain, but the fourth one was China, that are far, far away from us, and that shows also a clear interest from China on HTA and HTA World. And finally, it is a normal country contributing to HTA, that is Italy. I will finish with a quote that was said by, my name is Iñaki, and it comes from Ignacio from Loyola. He was also a citizen of the Basque Country. And among all the quotes that he said, one was, I think, very relevant for this meeting, that was, reach to the excellence and share it. And I think it is important that you have reached to the excellence. The International Scientific Program Committee has considered that you have reached to the excellence, and now this is your role to share it with others. Thank you very much.
We want this meeting will be the link to the next meeting in Latin America, concretely in Buenos Aires. The region of the Americas will work hard in hearing you how the lessons that we will discuss the next days. So please bear in mind that the legacy is important for the next to come. We are waiting for you in Buenos Aires.
Okay, so, and now please let me to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Rifat Atoun. So Dr. Rifat Atoun is Professor of Global Health Systems and the Director of Health System Innovation Lab at Harvard University. Between 2016 and 2022, he served as the faculty chair of the Harvard Ministerial Leadership Program. In 2008, 2012, he was a member of the executive management at the Global Fund as Director of Strategy, Performance, and Evaluation. His research extends globally and focuses on health system performance, health system transformation, and innovation. He has published more than 450 papers in leading journals, including New England Journal of Medicine, Nature Medicine, Lancet, Lancet Oncology, JAMA, and Academy of Management Journal. And in 2020, 2021, and 2022, was recognized as one of the world's most highly cited researchers. Dr. Atun has advised many governments around the world on health system reforms and acts as a consultant advisor to the World Bank, WHO, and leading health and technology companies. In 2019-2020, Professor Atun was a senior advisor to the G20 presidents, and in 2021-2022 was the co-chair of the G20-T20 Task Force of Global Health Security and COVID-19 for the G20 Indonesian presidency. He was a member of the US National Academy of Medicine Committee on Health Systems and the advisory board of WHO Research Center for Health Development in Japan, the Norwegian Research Council Programme for Global Health Research, and the UK Medical Research Council Global Health Group. He is a member of the Longitude Prize Committee and a founder and board chair of Movement Health 2030, a Swiss foundation that supports innovation aimed at solving major global health challenges. He is founding president of the Global Surgery Foundation based in Geneva. Please let me join Professor Rifat Atun. Welcome.
A very good morning to you all. It's an immense privilege and pleasure to be here, distinguished guests and dear colleagues in this beautiful historic city of Seville in Andalusia. I'm going to talk about sustainable HTA for sustainable health systems. There was a very ominous statement in your title, a turning point for HTA. I think it's a turning point for the better. I'm going to briefly talk about health systems. In order to talk about sustainability, we need to have a shared understanding of health systems and the shared understanding of sustainability. Then I'm going to share with you some empirical evidence on how health systems are performing, or not, as the case might be, and then make a conclusion on their sustainability. And then the third part of my presentation is the role of HTAi, in helping develop sustainable health systems. So I take a systems view of health systems. That might be surprising to you, but actually many models of health systems have sort of input, output, outcome models. But it's very important to think of health systems as interlinked systems that are dynamic, that are complex, that are changing, and they're part of a broad changing context. And typically, as policymakers, we have three functions to modify: governance and organization of the system, we have financing of the system, third, resource generation and management, and these are used to generate a set of outputs at individual level, individual health services, and public health services, both individual subpopulations and populations. But a very important consideration as policymakers is to ensure that these outputs are effective, cost-effective, they're delivered efficiently, they're equitable, and they're responsive. They're responsive to the changing context and to to expectations of citizens. In turn, these outputs produce a set of outcomes at systems level. These are improving health, improving financial protection, and improving user satisfaction, both the level, average level, but also the distribution among the population. So a sustainable system is one that produces cost-effective services and delivers them in an efficient way, so that results in value for money, but also produces these outputs in a way that is equitable, but also responsive to the changing context and resilient to the changing context, and in line with citizen expectations. And that generates value for many. And I was very encouraged to hear the authorities from Spain and Andalusia talk about equity as a major principle of their health systems. So responsiveness to the changing context and resilience to these changes on an ongoing basis leads to or produces sustainability. So in systems thinking, any system that is able to respond to external shocks or rapid changes and are resilient to ongoing changes are sustainable. So those that can demonstrate responsiveness and resilience are sustainable health systems, or sustainable systems generally. So if we use this as a departure point for understanding sustainable health systems, then we can begin to measure whether systems are sustainable or whether systems exhibit evidence of sustainability. So we can look at if health systems are responding to shocks, external shocks, contextual changes, or if they're resilient to these changes. So let me explain to this in more detail with some empirical evidence of the work we've been doing for more than 30 years to try and understand health system performance and sustainability. So first of all, very important to understand that health systems do not operate in isolation. They're part of a broad context, an ever-changing context. So for example, demographic changes. We have aging with higher levels of individuals with cognitive and physical decline. Demographic transition leads to epidemiological transition that produces chronic illness, but very importantly, multimorbidity. More than 2 chronic conditions simultaneously in an individual. But another important epidemiological transition we're experiencing is widening inequalities around the world. And that's a huge risk for sustainability of health systems. Then, of course, there are political changes in many countries around us. And we see increased evidence of populism, which leads to suboptimal decisions in relation to resource allocation, but also targeting of investments. There are legal and regulatory changes. These are changes beyond health policies. For example, regulations regarding data laws that impact health systems, or changes in trade agreements that are leading, at the moment, increasing cross-border flows of data, funding, healthcare, and demand for services. Then there are economic changes. In the European context, and also in many countries, there's high inflation, there are low economic growth, that leads to fiscal constraints, and there's also the green economy transition. So countries are trying to manage their economies to adjust to this new reality. What COVID-19 did was really unmask the sociocultural expectations of citizens. We're seeing increasing levels of polarization. These dots you see here, actually, these are networks. You talked about networks. These are networks that talk to each other on social media. Whereas in the past, it was more of a homogeneous mass. Now we have 2 polar opposites. We have one group and we have another group. And we are seeing increasing levels of distrust in science, as well as polarization of different groups. And on top of that, we have environmental degradation that's leading to zoonoses and emergence of new diseases. And finally, a source of optimism, technology. There is incredible renaissance in science. So we have technological innovation, we have convergence of science that's leading to production of new diagnostics, new medicines, new therapeutics, and new solutions for healthcare. So let's have a look at how health systems are responding to just 2 of these contextual shifts, epidemiological and technological, within the context of economic constraint, where there's fiscal pressures to reduce investment in health sector. So first, I'm going to look at the resilience. How are systems responding to epidemiological transition over time? So this has been happening over decades, as opposed to an external shock that's happening suddenly. This is a study I had the privilege of leading that looked at emergence of, management of diabetes in sub-Saharan Africa. It was the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology Commission. Here we used data from 12 countries, national representative surveys with individual level data, with biomarkers, to understand what proportion of individuals with diabetes had ever had their glucose measured, they were aware of their diagnosis, they were given advice, or they were actually provided treatment. And what we found was that among this population, out of every 100 individuals, just 50% ever had their glucose measured, 37% were aware of their diagnosis, just 17% received advice, and only 11% received treatment. And of course, a smaller number achieved control. We extended this study. We set forward to identify national representative surveys with biomarkers that could be used to pool data. Typically, these are step surveys that are led by WHO. And this paper published in PLOS Medicine, we pooled data from 28 low and middle income countries for which data were accessible to us. And what we found was very surprising. Of every 100 individuals with type 2 diabetes, that is, 64% are detected, only 48% are diagnosed, less than 1 in 2, 45% are treated, but just 30% achieve control. There's no shortage of diagnostics or medicines in many of these countries, but the control levels are low. So the systems are not resilient to changes in epidemiology of one of the commonest conditions. Then we extended our data set even further. We started looking at hypertension, which is the commonest chronic condition. And I present here data by world regions. We were able to pull data from 44 low and middle income countries. And let me just use Latin America, which is the next venue for your HTAi meeting, as an example. And each dot is a country. And you can see CRI at the top. That's Costa Rica, which I'll come back to. So here in Latin America, we see a very interesting picture because of every 100 individuals with hypertension, around 90% have their blood pressure measured. So measurement takes place. But then, around 60%, less than 60% are diagnosed. And then around 50% are treated, and only 25 to 30% achieve control. When I present these data in Chile, I have my good friend here from Chile, and also from Brazil, they say, this cannot be true. I said, look, I'm only presenting to you the data that you provide to me. So this is an objective analysis of pooled data that is nationally representative. Of course, the picture in other world regions are even worse. In South and East Asia, and the data set includes India, for example, and sub-Saharan Africa, where the control levels are below 10%. So if we think about the health system and the effectiveness objective in relation to the outputs produced, we're not achieving effectiveness. Are we achieving efficiency? Well, answer is no. Again, this is the same data, quite busy slides, so I hope you've had your coffee this morning. So if you could look at every single dot is a country. Then we have a best fit sort of regression, which is the straight line. Then we have the gray area, which is the 95% uncertainty intervals. And here we present each country by, on the x-axis, GDP per capita, and on the y-axis, performance in relation to percentage of individuals managed at each step. And we start with ever measured, then diagnosed, then treated, then controlled. And we can see, and let's have a look at this country here, which is Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is outperforming all other countries. And if we move to diagnose, we can see again, Costa Rica is an outlier, performing better than others. If we look at treated, we can say again, the number of countries achieving treatment are now below 50%, including 95% uncertainty intervals. And if you move to control, you can see most countries are, again, below 30%. So if we use Costa Rica as the efficiency frontier, all the countries are actually far away from that efficiency frontier. So the countries are not achieving effectiveness of the outputs produced, we're not achieving control, but also they're not efficient because they're far away from the efficiency frontier, which is Costa Rica. And I wish I had data from Andalusia, from Catalonia, and also Basque Country. I'm sure they would be high performers here. So not doing well in relation to effectiveness, not doing well in relation to efficiency. How are systems doing in relation to equity? Whereas the earlier papers were published in The Lancet, we managed to get this paper published actually very recently in Nature Medicine. There's huge interest in system performance at the moment. So here we present hypertension care cascade with a larger data set by wealth, quintile, and country income groups. So here we have for low income, for low middle income, and upper middle income countries. And here we have wealth quintiles from Q1, which is the poorest wealth quintile, to Q5, which is the richest income quintile. And you can see that at every step, and here we have awareness, treated, and controlled, there's a gradient. Yes? So not only is there a gradient between low-income countries and upper-middle-income countries do better, so there is a inequality in relation to performance in higher-income countries, but there are also within-country differences. And let's have a look at upper-middle-income countries, where you can see a real gradient in relation to awareness, treated, and controlled. So we're also not achieving equity objectives. We can see a real gradient in relation to the system outputs benefiting higher income groups as opposed to those that are low income. You might say, but these are low and middle income countries. But actually, we see a similar picture in high income countries. And interestingly, we could not get pool data from high income countries. But I present here data which from a paper we published in The Lancet, which were used by the World Health Organization to inform the Global Diabetes Compact targets. And what we found was quite surprising to us. So I've highlighted a few high-income countries, including sort of Germany, Finland. You can see there are many countries where individuals that have type 2 diabetes who are diagnosed, in many countries the levels are below 80%. And in a large number of countries, including Finland and Singapore, the levels are actually below 50%. So this is not just a feature for low and middle income countries. It's also a feature of high income countries. And we're using diabetes as a tracer, which is a common condition among many different sort of income groups. So systems are not being resilient to the contextual shifts. But have they been responsive to shocks, epidemiological shocks? And here we use, again, we have many studies, but I want to present to you aggregate data. These are OECD data, looking at what has happened to avoidable mortality. This is preventable and treatable deaths per 100,000 population in G7 and selected countries. And what we can see is that avoidable mortality has increased very substantially following COVID-19. So when COVID-19 hit health systems, systems were not able to respond in an effective and efficient way. And we can see in some countries that the uptick is very, very high. So these are sort of Mexico and Peru, countries where there are large inequalities. And we show in more detailed studies in Brazil that actually inequality is the main reason for the differences observed in treatment as well as health outcomes. So not being responsive, not being able to resilient to contextual shifts, but also not being able to respond to contextual changes, shocks, such as COVID-19. So as a result, average life expectancy is beginning to decline. Again, this is using the latest data from OECD, from selected G7 countries and others. You can see that after 2019, average life expectancy at birth has declined. Some countries are able to recover, but others not. But I want to point out two countries, the UK and US. UK has a national health system. Everyone has access to healthcare, free of charge at the point of delivery, and US is a very different system, as you know. In the US, which spends more than any other country in the world, the decline in average life expectancy began well before COVID-19, 2014. So there was a glacial decline that was observed, then a very sharp decline, and the US has not been able to recover. And there's a huge divergence compared to peer countries with similar income levels. Similarly, in the UK, the levels, average life expectancy began to decline before COVID-19. Then there was a sharp drop after COVID-19. Again, these are the latest available data, but we'd like to see what happens next. So, what's happening to health expenditure? With these contextual changes, health expenditures are actually increasing in all countries. And again, I want to point out the US, which is a complete outlier, whereas the performance is actually sloping downwards very rapidly. The healthcare expenditure in the US are very high, 18% of GDP, but actually increasing. But in all countries, after COVID-19, health expenditures have increased. And there's a new equilibrium established at a far higher level than what IMF and OECD had projected. So, systems are under pressure. More is going in, less is going out. Is that sustainable? No, it's not a difficult exam question. It's not sustainable. Using the definition we had as the departure point, systems have not been able to respond to contextual shifts, and I've only shared with you two contextual shifts, yes? And they have not been resilient to ongoing insults to the system. So there's a big threat. Systems are not sustainable. But I see this as an opportunity. I'm an optimist. And I see an opportunity for health technology assessment in ensuring sustainable health system. How so? Well, fixing unsustainable health systems. HTA to rescue. You all have a very, very important role, in my view, as a health systems person. First of all, I use technology, definition of technology in a broad sense. Hard technologies, not just medicines, but also diagnostics, other health technologies, but also soft technologies that are very important in shaping health systems. But we have an innovation challenge. We have what I call asymmetric innovation. We have a real renaissance in relation to diagnostics, vaccines, health technologies, medicines, but on the delivery side, health system delivery has not changed very much, literally for centuries. So we have more of these incredible innovations going into health systems that are clearly not fit for purpose. So we're not able to realize the benefits of these innovations after they're introduced into health systems. And I think that's important for HTA, because HTA should be not the endpoint for approving the use of a technology. It should be actually the beginning with follow-up of what happens to these technologies when they're introduced into health systems, to see if they do realize, as predicted, the value that they are supposed to generate. So throughout the whole life cycle of the innovation, from the conception, from the generation, and from implementation. But we're seeing more and more complex innovations requiring ongoing assessments at every level of the organism. From genomic, we have gene therapy. Proteomics, we have highly targeted personalized therapies emerging. We have cellular therapy at cell level. At tissue level, we have regenerative medicine. At organ level, we have many organ transplants, of course, but also now with microbiome. And at system level, we're seeing complex innovations, for example, brain, spine organ interfaces to manage individuals with transaction of the spine. But there are many other there are many other complex technologies and solutions that are emerging. These are just illustrative examples. So we have new solutions emerging that require different ways of assessment and ongoing assessment to see actually what happens when these innovations are introduced into the system to ensure that the delivery systems are ready and are able to adopt and diffuse these innovations to realize the value that they're supposed to. And there are a number of major transitions that require health technology assessment to take a new form and new shape. We're transitioning from analog to digital, and digital data is going to be very important in terms of pulling data, in terms of analytics, but also we have emergence of digital therapeutics, digital diagnostics, and other digital tools that are going to really transform healthcare delivery. We're moving from generalized interventions or generalized medicines to highly personalized medicines. Simultaneously, we're also moving from individual level interventions to population level interventions with targeting of subpopulation groups. We're also transitioning from increasing use of self-learning automated systems with the application of machine learning and AI, and not just human inputs into decision-making and management. And we're transitioning from less complex therapy to highly complex multimodal solutions. So HTA need to transition to managing these complex solutions that are emerging. But we have a challenge because the institutional logic in health systems are actually not helping innovation, adoption, and diffusion. On the one hand, we have industrial policies, and including in the EU, that encourage innovation. But on the whole, health policies are designed to constrain adoption of innovations because of immediate pressures on budgets. And economic policies do not take into account adequately contribution of health innovations and health systems to the broad economy. And a lot of the emphasis is actually on short-term budgetary cost rather than the long-term health, economic, and societal benefits or returns of investing in new technologies and innovation. So HTA can help shape or can change this institutional logic, which is going to be critically important to convince policymakers. So we need to demonstrate that investing in new technologies, and I'm using innovation as a broad umbrella term, generates improved economic returns by better outcomes and reducing cost of illness, but also there are important human capital and productivity gains that need to be quantified, and there are then broader contributions, what we call spillover effects in adjacent economies beyond health sector. Every research and development job created in the health sector or every job created in the health sector creates additional jobs in adjacent sectors and economies. So we're not measuring the value generated in a way. The boundaries we use when we use evaluations are actually too narrow. We take a too narrow health services perspective. So what can HTA do? Well, HTA can actually transition from being seen as gatekeepers of technology to actually system shapers. I mean, that word is very important. Shaping systems, not just introducing technologies, but ensuring that the systems are fit for purpose to realize the desirable outputs that are effective, that are delivered efficiently, that are equitable, and that are responsive to external shocks, that are resilient to these changes, but that are also in line with societal and citizen expectations. So HTA enable innovation throughout the innovation cycle. This ongoing assessment can help introduce solutions to improve agility of systems, to demonstrate greater responsiveness, and to bolster resilience, to produce sustainability. More effective and efficient services that generate value for money, and more equitable and responsive services that generate value for many. So HTA can help transitioning from the current performance, which is suboptimal and fairly varied across countries, shifting everything to the right over time, but actually with higher performance level and also reducing variation. But that requires a new emphasis for HTA. So in terms of innovations, rather than actually applying HTA just here, at the introduction of innovations, applying HTA throughout the life cycle in the adoption of innovations in health systems and diffusion or expansion of innovations or technologies at scale to ensure that everyone benefits. And with the digital transition, with the new methods, analytic methods, with machine learning and AI, we're able to undertake almost real-time assessment of what goes on with technologies, so that what has been demonstrated in a randomized control trial, when a technology is introduced into a health system, we're able to demonstrate that it works. It works effectively, it works efficiently, it achieves equity, and it achieves responsiveness to ensure that we're able to generate value for money and also value for many. And I cannot think of a better group of individuals than yourselves to help shape health systems, transitioning from just priority setting to gatekeeping to being system shapers. Thank you very much for your attention.
Where's this chess? Chris, can I just ask you to pull back a tiny little bit? Yeah, you have your water, it's far away. Yes, please, yeah.
So, let us start now with the first plenary of this meeting that deals with sustainable health technology assessment for sustainable health systems. So Professor Rifat Atun has shown the big challenges we have in reshaping health systems through HTA. And it's very important to make health systems sustainable, but also how we sustain ourselves to be responsive for all these demands that we are getting from health systems. So hopefully there will be some bright ideas here that will be shared by Carol Longson. She will introduce herself and the other members of the plenary. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Lara, and thank you to HTAi for allowing me to come here and host this first plenary. This session gets to the heart, as we see, of one of the plenary themes, sustainability. And we're going to explore sustainability from perhaps a number of perspectives, definitely from different perspectives of stakeholders, but also from different issues. We're going to explore, and it's been fantastic that we've had this introduction from Professor Atun, because it totally sets the scene for what we're going to explore here. We're going to explore sustainability of healthcare systems and how HTA might be able to contribute to that. Is it contributing effectively right now? Can it contribute more in the future? But we're also going to explore HTA itself and how it can become more sustainable. And that is really, really important, because right now, HTA itself is under pressure. It's under pressure to do more. It's under pressure to do more things more quickly. It's under pressure to do different things. So there's a huge amount that we can potentially explore in this session. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. But before I do that, because sustainability could be such a big, big topic, we're not going to talk about introducing sustainability into the way that HTA is undertaken. So that's off the agenda. What's on the agenda is about the HTA helping healthcare systems stay sustainable and HTA itself becoming sustainable. Just a little bit of how this session is going to run. As I say, I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. And then you're going to do a little bit of work because we've got a question for you. And hopefully very soon there will be a slide up here with a QR code. And we're going to put a question to you that I'm hoping you can give us some feedback to. We're then going to move to the panelists, and they're each going to give just 5 minutes each on their views of those two topics, as to how HTA can help healthcare systems be sustainable and how HTA itself can become more sustainable. Then we're going to get into some exchange between us as panelists and you as the audience, and there will be opportunities both on Slido to ask questions, and also hopefully there'll be some mics around the room. And then finally, I'm going to come back to the question that I've asked you at the beginning, and ask you exactly the same question at the end. And let's see how your views and thoughts might have changed on that question as a consequence of the debate. So, without further ado, Chris, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, good morning.
I think it's on.
Good morning to everybody. So I'm Chris Munoz, I'm from the Philippines. I am part of the Philippine Alliance of Patient Organization. It's an umbrella group of different specific disease groups. Thank you.
Adriana.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry. My name is Adriana Velázquez Berumen. I'm the team lead for medical devices and in vitro diagnostics in the World Health Organization, and it is a pleasure for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea.
Good morning.
Yep.
Does it work? Yeah, great. Good morning. My name is Andrea Rapagliosi. I'm chairing the HTA committee at MedTech Europe, and I'm also working for Edorf Life Sciences, who is a company fully dedicated to breakthrough innovation in structural diseases.
And Sandra.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sandra García Armesto. I'm the director of the Catalan Agency for Healthcare Quality and Assessment. And as such, we are also part of the National Health System Network of Health Technology Assessment, and part of the committees that are discussing the whole implementation of the new regulation on health technology assessment in Europe. So I guess I can speak or try to speak from all those different levels today.
Well, thank you. The panelists have been very humble in introducing themselves. You can find much more about them in the conference program. They have a wide range of experience, so hopefully we're going to tap into that during this discussion. Chris, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind. And you and the patients that you represent, you see healthcare systems absolutely at the front line. You're experiencing healthcare systems right at the front line. Sustainability of healthcare systems and how HTA can contribute to that. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, just last year, around June, so I was tasked to do a focus group discussion on patients living with liver cancer. It was, the objective was to learn about patient experience and how the health system works for this, or the challenges that they experience in the healthcare system. So we had a hard time finding patients that are living with liver cancer that would like to, discuss about their condition. So during that, after several months, we were able to find 4. So 4 of those have liver cancer, stage 3A and stage 3B. So it was a bare month, so it was a very busy month. So we said, okay, we'll do this in January. So coming January, we were supposed to do a focus group discussion between the 4. 1 was accessing the private healthcare facility. The 3 were accessing the public health facility or the government. Unfortunately, the 3 passed away. I was quite confused why I didn't expect that it would come such a time very fast. So what were the lack of infrastructure in their healthcare system that enabled the three not to, to pass away, and for the one that is accessing the healthcare system, the private side of the healthcare system, to, stay alive up to now. So, we need HTA to ensure that the health system should be responsive to the needs of the patients, and not just responsive. It must be responsive in time, right? When the patient needs care, it should be there, it should be available, it should be accessible. And of course, HTA should provide the healthcare system the chance to make access equitable to all. From the experience that we gathered, one of those three, they only read radiation, but they were not able to access it. Sometimes it is not available in the facility, sometimes it is not accessible because it is not given as a benefit. So it depends. And I think this situation does not only happen in our country, it also happens to your countries as well. So not only HTA should ensure that, or help the health system to maintain equitable in healthcare, to maintain equity in healthcare, it should also be ensure that patients will not have a financial burden. It will not add financial burden to themselves. And of course, we should not forget that some of the problems with the healthcare system are the gaps. We patients always say, there is the gap in the healthcare system, and who should address this one? Or maybe the healthcare system didn't realize that they were just giving the benefit, but it's not a continuum of care for the patient. So the patient may need screening, diagnostics, treatment, but maybe one of those is missing. So who will provide, guidance for them? I think HTA can provide guidance for them to ensure that the patients can have a continuum of care. And lastly, well, the most importantly is that HTA must ensure that the patient voice is inside. Whenever policies are made, whenever systems are being made, whenever technologies are being made, and these are very important because we are the users of the technology. We are the ones who, in the end, will say that, okay, this is what we need, this is what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I wanted to let you hear Chris's very grounded story before we ask you the question. And thank you ever so much for sharing such a specific experience. We've already seen a link between Professor Atun's very global perspective and how it is on the ground, that responsiveness, that need for responsiveness, and how HTA may or may not be able to help with that. So I think that's the QR code. Can we pull up the question onto the screen, please, so that people can take a look at that? I just want to check, is everyone seeing the question on their mobiles? You've got it, good, very good. So here we are. So we've heard a very wide perspective, we've heard a very grounded perspective. The question is, back to the question, please, thank you. What is the greatest challenge in delivering sustainable HTA? And they're your 4 choices, if you wouldn't mind pressing one of those buttons. I can't see right at the back, just want to check if they've got the response to it yet. Are we seeing them all coming in? Any more? Now's your last chance. Hope the technology's working. Okay, can we, if we've got all of the votes in, can we put the results up on the screen? So here we are. What's the greatest challenge in delivering sustainable HTA? Well, we've got a bit of a split here. We can't see, can we see the response to each of the 4 questions, or we've still got some votes coming in? Can't see the bottom, but if we can do a calculation really quickly in our heads, we can see that we have got a pretty equal response between trying to meet the demand, HTA itself trying to cope with the demand for its work, and seeing how those processes and methods can keep up with the pace of innovation. It's interesting, we've had a lot of discussion about healthcare systems and maybe how the shift from what we're doing at the moment as gatekeepers into shapers might be something for us to think about. Not so much on that, so let's see how we go. Thank you ever so much, Chris. I'm now going to move on to Adriana, and Adriana has a fantastically wide perspective from the role that you play in WHO, and you also have some very important tools that the WHO is developing in order to ensure that there is a global reach of HTA into healthcare systems to help those systems be both resilient and responsive. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing and maybe the wider perspectives of WHO on sustainability.
Thank you, Carol. And well, if we just go one step behind, and actually I'm wearing my Sustainable Development Goal icon here, and some of you are, we need to know yes, that sustainability is really important, and we need to reach it by 2030. What are we going to do? There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of inequities, that the health systems are really exactly following what Professor Atun was saying. They're not responding, so what we're going to do? So I'll just tell you a little bit of what WHO has been doing using kind of the HTA principles. So as you might know, WHO has been developing the list of essential medicines for almost 50 years. It will be 50 years next year. And recently, since 9 years ago, we started developing the list of priority medical devices and essential in vitro diagnostics and essential assistive technologies. Also trying to have those list of all those products, not only the medicines, but also all those products that need to be there for patients, for benefits packages for patients in the different countries. Many low and middle income countries actually looked to the list in WHO, and they're trying to find out what was the evidence there and then try to adapt it to their countries to do their own list. And we have the same thing for vaccines, for example. But right now, what we have seen in WHO, and especially after the pandemic, is exactly what Professor Atun was just saying. There's no uptake of those technologies. We really need to do something differently. So something that we started like 3 years ago, and it's evolving, it is what is called the Universal Health Coverage Compendium. And so what we do in that compendium is we're bringing the information from the essential medicines list, the priority medical devices, the in vitro diagnostics, the assistive technologies, health workforce, and cost, and putting them all together. And the idea is to have those packages of information to be given to the member states so that they can adapt it and they can set their own priorities. So this is a tool that we hope that will help countries establish their priorities and resolve with and allocate it depending on their resources, their infrastructure, their health workforce, to be able to shift it and adapt it to their own. But it has been extremely complex, as you all can imagine. But I think the pandemic shows us that we really need to work together, that we need to share the information that has to be available, and that there should be a link between what is innovation, regulation, because all the health products need to be regulated at the end, safe and effective, but then the link with health technology assessment, and then the link with health technology management, because at the end, it is where are the resources going to be used and by whom and how to benefit the patients. So I think that's something that we are very aware of, and especially that equitable access, because the products can be there, but then the supply, the training of the healthcare workforce, And how can we ensure that those could be available exactly focusing on the patient? And well, in many of my talks, I always bring my white pen because the white pen is really talking about the patient. We really need to focus on the patient, not on the technology. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Adriana. We're already getting into the complexity of this topic. And that complexity is playing out on all sorts of levels, but it's definitely playing out in the context of HTA bodies and going about doing their work. But I'm going to now turn to Andrea. Andrea has worked and been very, very active in many countries, in many HTA processes. So Andrea, sort of thinking about that sort of longer term perspective, how do you think HTA, so we're going now into HTA bodies themselves, how do you think HTA and HTA bodies need to change in order to be able to be responsive to healthcare systems and the people that they serve? What's in your mind?
That's a question would deserve, a couple of days maybe of reflection, but I'll try to be...
5 minutes.
But what I think, honestly, I start from the question. I was really hoping that the question, or the answer actually, that got the highest number was not the first one. Because when you say all the problem of HTA, we have not enough staff, we don't have resources. There is a famous line by Bertolt Brecht that says, I'm indicating the moon and you are talking about my finger. Yeah, for sure, that's an issue. I learned from Marco yesterday that for the HTA regulation system, currently, while we speak, there are more than 600 people through all the agencies in the 27 member states that are working, you are one in, try to prepare, get ready for that. And they do out of their current job. So for sure there is a pressure, but that's not really the issue. The issue is the role. When Professor Adun was saying, how you think yourself? You are a shaper. And actually in the past we live, and we still feel a lot, this separation. No, I'm an HTA doer, I'm an agency, I'm informing decision. Then someone else will take the decision. It's not true, because when you inform a decision, you're already influencing that decision. You cannot even put, in the old days you would say the paper cigarette, something very thin between the two, where you stop the informing and where you stop the influencing. It's a continuum, actually. So there is a role of engaging and rethinking the role of HTA agency and taking, in one way, accountability, but also being more vocal. What we see is also what we would like to see being implemented and executing in terms of changes in a given healthcare system. When you talk about sustainability, for me, is a combination of social equity, identification of patient and population needs, public health prioritization, and financial planning. This mix cannot be only solved by a randomized control trial, a systematic review, a Markov model on it. So it's that role, it's that type of rethinking the role, and also being equipped with the right tools to address this question. Then we will have an HTA that is able to make and influence the changes that are needed in best use on innovation, but also best implementation of processes. Because technological innovation goes with processes. So the two are not separable. So that's what I would say, what I hope that lots of people here is really, if I may use an expression, in my preferred sport that is diving, is when we say diving is not a sport, it's an attitude. And doing HTA should become an attitude. It's not a technological or skill exercise I'm able to do or not. I'm thinking what will be the end of the game, what I want to see happen, what I want to see materialize.
Thank you, Andrew. It's interesting. We're already picking out perhaps one or two challenges from the panelists to HTA as it's already being done, perhaps how it ought to be done, the challenge of timeliness. HTA processes take a very long time usually, so the issue of timeliness becomes really important. But the one that I want to pick out from Andrea, and perhaps we'll come on to this in the discussion, is we have an expression in the UK, being in the thick of it, being in the middle of things, feeling that responsibility of being in the middle of things. And you're reflecting that perhaps HTA needs to move from just feeling very objective to actually feeling part of the whole system solution. And I think I want to touch on that as we move into the discussion. But now, Sandra, please do give us your view. You're having to grapple with all of these issues and all of these requests and demands that ministers, healthcare systems, patients have on HTA bodies. Can you give us a little bit of your reflection on how or whether HTA itself needs to change to cope with these issues and be more sustainable?
Actually, the first thing I'd like to say is that I'm really happy that we all agree that definitely we need to start thinking the way we adopt innovation and make it effectively and equitably available for our citizens needs to change. And it's a question of, as I said, adoption and how we shape our systems to be able to digest and to be able to behave in this climate. So if we are to do that, and I think there's also some convergence here, and it was very useful, the presentation and the setting of Professor Atun, we need some kind of institutional change, if you want, or shifting, because one of the things that is happening now, and I take here, well, all my predecessors' statements, but also Andreas, or in particular Andreas, which is, think about the technologies that are actually coming to us in this particular moment, right? We are talking about advanced therapies, we are talking about artificial intelligence, applied whatever. The thing is that more and more, the stage at which these technologies present for decision making is really early, or as early as the kind of evidence available there to make the decision of bidding or not bidding is very limited. So the point is that we have institutional arrangement, the point I'm trying to make, we have institutional arrangements to think about technologies as something that at a certain point we decide whether or not we let them in. And actually that's not what's happening in reality. And decisions are being made and need to be made all around the system, not only at centralized level, and that's also something I would like to point out. Decisions are being made with the amount of evidence or no evidence available. So what's the job of a better health technology assessment function from my point of view? Well, first of all, we need to make some alphabetization, and I don't want to sound condescending there, but definitely, I mean, if decisions are made all around, everybody needs to be aware of what is evidence for the decision they are making and what is not, and should be able to ask for it. So from the health technology assessment world, we need to proactively say, there are different things we can do for you. There are different approaches. You may have only the dossier of the innovator, and that's, and you are deciding whether or not that's promising and whether or not your patients should be exposed to that. But definitely you cannot do it without regulation, you cannot do it without evidence. And the decision shouldn't be, I get it, I take it, it's in, the decision should be, let's see. And let's see means that the shared agreement with the innovation is, okay, so we provide evidence together, and that's for the decision makers to say, and for the health technology assessment functions, bodies, whatever it should be, right, to follow up and to keep on saying at this point, look, I don't think the evidence has changed that much. Still is not, definitely, or maybe yes, I don't know. But the point is that decision needs to be that fluent. And for us to be able to take, because I think I'm going over my time, for decisions, for us to be able to take up this new task, which, as I said, need to adapt to the life cycle of the technologies that we are facing, and need to provide relevant evidence for each of those stages, which are more and more and more very early. So to do that, well, we need to innovate the way we work. I mean, we have been working in pretty human labor intensive processes that definitely has been already commented, have some room for improvement. And I'm proud to say that actually that's part of the discussion, evolution, conceptual frameworks, methodological frameworks that we are developing in all the networks I'm aware of. From the national health system in Spain to INATA, you know, health technology assessment bodies, we are really keen into using artificial intelligence to automatize all the processes that used to take us several days, and now, you know, be a matter of minutes, half an hour, things like that. And I have my moderator saying I'm going too far away. My point, that there's plenty of room for innovation. We are on it, it's working there, but for me the key point is actually one of the questions that was there, what the health system wants from us, and how would they let us help?
Thank you. Well, I want to thank each of the panelists because they've already given us quite a few things we can work on. And I just, if you don't mind, just for a few minutes, just concentrate on our discussion between the panelists before I bring in the audience. I think I'm picking up a theme. I'm not suggesting it's consensus or agreement that HTA needs to be more active inside healthcare systems, not stand outside. They need to do more at different parts in the life cycle. I see a bit of a tension there because we've already heard that even now with the job that HTA bodies have, they can't quite be timely enough for the patients. They can't be timely enough for the healthcare systems. So how do we reconcile, it might be technology, so this is the question too, how do we reconcile that call for much more active involvement in healthcare systems and shaping those healthcare systems, more stuff being done with what the audience seemed to think was the most important thing, which is the resource constraint of the HTA bodies themselves. I think I'll take Sandra first, but Andrea, I'd really like your view, and particularly also Chris, on you've got an HTA body representative on this panel. What would you say to them about that topic? But Sandra first.
Okay. I would say we have an issue here of priority setting. For me, that's the key point. I mean, because if the system is able to identify effectively the challenges for which they want solutions, we want solutions. I mean, I tend to think about myself as part of the system, as a citizen, and as a professional. So, you know, which are the challenges for which we are looking for solutions? It's much easier to do that than to passively search the market to see what's going on and try to assess everything that comes out.
Okay.
I mean, it's not only that it's easier, it's also that I think it would be a better use of the energy and the resources of the society as a whole if we are able to give clear messages to the developers of which solutions are we interested in, which type of solution, what's the problem we are trying to solve. And there I think we can get a lot of alignment, and we can accompany those that are priorities. And of course the market is there, we operate in a market mainly. So yeah, there will be other solutions, but not necessarily are the ones that you need to put in the pipeline for priority assessment or for promising for patients.
You're talking about priority setting. Get your questions right. We all know that as HTA people. But you're talking about challenges. You're not talking just about technologies. You're not talking about the questions just about the technologies. little bit of a conflict with the term health technology assessment. Andrea, your thoughts?
I think, just to avoid to repeat, the concept is not only, it's true there is a need of prioritization, but prioritization became one of these empty containers in which everybody, is part of the jargon. One of the real challenge, I think Professor Atun again said, and we live daily, is the fact that we talk a lot about COVID, post-COVID, but healthcare system, they were fragile before COVID. COVID only showed us the fragility that they had, because at the first snap, boom, boom, everything went down. So that's the fragility that was before. If we don't take that analytical understanding, we are putting band-aids on band-aids currently. That's the real. So for me, the first challenge, if you want, but also to be more material, is to start to see identification of needs, patient population, prioritization of intervention, optimal use of innovation available, and change organizational matter as the way healthcare is delivered to people. You cannot separate the four. It's a circle. It's a virtual circle that needs to be activated. That's the role of HTA. But then you're going to say my dream is that I would lie and I would pay, whatever, hundreds of dinners, you name it, when I will see one HTA published and not having the ending further research is needed. Just tell what you think. Tell what you think and give an indication that can be a tool then to be implemented or not, and can be a tool for further discussion.
Thank you.
But for that, we need the institutional arrangements to be able to do it. And I'm not sure I agree that HTA should be doing everything. Honestly, I mean, when you say you want the HTA to go the whole circle around, yes, that gives me the givers. No, please, that's not what we need to do. But we need to find the right place, and we need to open up the kind of service we can provide to the system. That's true.
Chris, I will bring you in, but Sandra, are we in the right place at the moment then with HTA?
I wouldn't say so, because we are still thought as the ones having technology by technology assessment to say whether or not that was more or less cost effective than the previous one. And that's in the best case scenario. I mean, that's not how the system works. Definitely, as a decision maker, I don't know how much that can be useful for you, because actually it's not one technology you need to think about. It's the whole service delivery for a certain problem that needs to evolve into an innovative solution. And it's a totally different approach. And it's true, it takes a part of, assessing implementation, as I was saying.
Chris, any thoughts on this?
Well, actually, there's always two words that always hear, not only here, but also in our country, that resource constraint and prioritization. And I think patients do not want to hear that word, right? So I think we must step back. What do we think about health? Do we treat it as investment, or do we treat it as an expense? So if we always say we're always resource constrained, we lack human resource, so where are we going to? But the government also invests in infrastructure. We invest in mobiles, computers, right? So should we treat healthcare as an expense or as an, investment? So I think, HTA and health system should always think that health is worth spending for. Yeah? So we want people to be healthy, we want them to be productive. We always say that. But if we always say, we hold back and say, oh, we have limited resources, right? So HTA and health systems should work together and ensure that, they must tell the government that this is worth the investment. We should add human resource. We should add budget. We should work through innovations. We should work through technologies to ensure that patients will receive it in a timely manner.
Thank you. listening to this and thinking about it from a much more global perspective, is HTA doing the right things for you to help you do your job?
Thank you.
Difficult question, I know.
It is very difficult.
It's at the heart of things, isn't it?
And I can just tell about personally. Before, I used to think of, the most sophisticated technologies, let's put them there. And then after working 15 years in WHO, then I go back and saying, wait, I think we need to work much more on prevention. And I know it sounds boring because it says, well, it's not so interesting, but well, we need to prevent. And we were just talking about hypertension. You know a simple blood pressure measurement device. It's not available everywhere. Still, there are many that are mercury-made, which should be out and banned of the world because of the mercury contamination. They're not available, but on the other hand, we have now a simple mobile tool to measure blood pressure, and it was just approved and received FDA approval. So we can have technologies that could be super simple, should be super available, super affordable for everybody, everywhere, to measure and to ensure that we have a measure of high blood pressure. That's something that impacts enormously. It's number one of cardiac and events are number one in mortality. So if we can avoid and we can contain pressure, that's something simple. Recently in the WHO, in the World Health Assembly, it was last year, a resolution on diagnostics was approved. Diagnostics were nowhere. They were not really in the forefront. Everything was for treatment and treatment and treatment. But if we start early diagnostics, and we can use early diagnostics to really screen populations to get early diagnostics, then the treatments will be less costly. And then everything, the complications will be less. But, and we need to go back to primary healthcare. I really know it sounds boring, but that's where we really need to put all our information. We need to do HTA for now the new technologies, because now we have wearables. Now we have a self-diagnostic test, and we were not doing HTA for those. So now we have to shift and say, what are the new technologies, and how can we do HTA for those new technologies so that then we can empower, and it is not only for high-income countries, that could be for everybody, everywhere. The patients now become much more informed, technology is available, so, and technology actually, the costs had gone down, not up. If you take just take any technology, and then realize what were you able to do with that technology 10 years ago, and what can you do now with the same cost? It is amazing. So we really need to use that and get that done. So for me, there should be a shift on HTA, on other things that we thought they were not as important, but I think they should be the most important. Thank you.
Andrea, I will pick you in. Here's what I'm picking up. Here's what I'm listening to. HTA, and I'll bring it back to sustainability. We've had a much wider discussion than HTA. We're asking questions here or addressing questions there. That's where the real problems are. The shift to move to that means that you've got to have, as an HTA perspective, a much more holistic view of that technology and its place across the life cycle. We hear lots about the word life cycle, but across the various stages of the application of that technology inside healthcare systems. And the systems perspective needs to be very much front of mind, even though you might be addressing a specific question or a specific problem. That's quite a big shift. Andrea.
Yeah. I was thinking, I mean, for the people who knows me, I was trying to be very polite in the first comments, but I cannot resist. No, I have to be, because it's nice to play fair, but at the end, really, as Chris reminds us, there are patients, there's people suffering, there's people doesn't get access to healthcare. What I'm trying to say, Adriana, I hear you. We are celebrating 50 years of the list of essential medicine. If after 50 years people doesn't get access to medicine, please forget about it. I would be shy to celebrate it. I would really embarrass. It doesn't work. Cioè, can we break this type of conservatorism or inability to change in the way as we think? We heard from Professor Autun, we are increasing investment, percentage of GDP in healthcare, and we have bad results. So we move to 18% and we have in UK waiting list patient diagnosis for aortic stenosis that are dying. So they are simply dying because the result, you know how many? Almost 2,000 per year. But this is the problem. Can HTA help to make system more active, more agile, more able to make the best use of their resources? If we are increasing, it will not be acceptable that we don't increase the quality of the healthcare service that we are delivering. All the rest, to be honest, is a nice conversation, but it's really blah, blah. It doesn't impact the ultimate user, the patients.
Thank you. So it's, did you want to come in, Sandra? Before, I'm trying desperately to open it up to the audience questions. So we've had quite a few in.
Several questions. So I think that one is dealing with your comment. Is saying, maybe comment on the difference between doing more and doing better. May you comment on that? Or any?
I think that might be a good place for Sandra to start.
Sandra. Indeed, it's a good hook. Yes, that's actually what we need to do. But now the economist in me, I'm half medical doctor, half economist, so the economist in me is kind of revolting or rebelling. We really need to be aware of the opportunity cost. We really do. I mean, healthcare is competing with many other things, many other parts of the public budgets, education, for instance, social, housing, right? And so we need to be aware of that if we are going with Adriana's point of view. So first one, so doing better, which means we wouldn't have more. We need to do better with the one we have. So the constraints are there. And also, I think we need to get an agreement and understanding of mission with the innovators themselves. I mean, access is has also a leg that is called price. So affordability, you know, is price we are talking about, and value for money, price setting. That's not health technology assessment, by the way. It's another division of but it's supposed to be informing what's the value, and then we talk about the price, and then it's affordable or not.
Now, there had to be some point in this discussion on sustainability when we talk about affordability, but I'm not going to focus on the affordability issue because we've already got some really wide system challenges on the application of HTA itself, irrespective of what its methodologies would be. And we've got a really good question from the audience here.
Thinking on HTA helping to reshape the system, could decentralization to a local health centers of HTA might be a solution? What it is needed for that?
So we're talking about HTA, an HTA on the setting, on the effectiveness of the setting of care. We don't do that very often in HTA, so have a think. You know, completely different types of questions, as you said, that HTA needs to address to actually help healthcare systems do the job that they need to do, which is to be much more resilient and much more responsive. Any thoughts on that? I think it was something that you touched on during the story that you told, which is, you know, in some places where you can have quick access, better outcomes. In other places where you have to wait a long time, then the outcomes are not so good.
Yes, I agree with that. That actually in the Philippines with a 110 million population, so the healthcare system is decentralized already. So the problem is now is how do you encourage those in the municipalities to be moving forward and to give health priority. And I think HTA would, they are not the experts on some matters. No, not everybody is expert in everything. And I think HTA, they need guidance. They need guidance from the, HTA can give guidance to them on how to do things, on what to give priorities. We might see diabetes on certain municipalities that are very high, where we might see, TB, but not diabetes on certain municipalities. So I think HTA can help, HTA, and maybe encourage also to have an HTA body inside the, municipality, to have their own HTA, to teach them, to empower them, so they will know, they will have their own make good decision on what to prioritize.
One level deeper on the doing, not necessarily doing more, but doing better. What do you think? I'll start with Andrea. Andrea, what does HTA need to do better? Please don't say everything.
That's unfair. No. What I think doing better is really the approach, if you want to say, no? Because when you start to talk about, the classical horizon scanning, then the selection of technologies, then the famous PICO, and then the assessment, et cetera, all these things are, a process in which you pass through. So the quality that you inject that, the inclusiveness that you inject that, the openness to listen to different perspectives, that is the better. The better is not changing. I think there is, literature outside. We know how to do it. So we know which are the right processes that are accepted. It's not that part. It's really, again, we talk about the attitude, the way, the openness, the ability of capturing, methodologically speaking, different perspective and different actors. That goes in a certain way with the decentralization, which I would interpret in terms of the proximity to the final user and final consumer. Cioè the patient, the hospital, the healthcare system in their localization. That's for sure. This is the ability. When you start to talk, principle of home care versus hospital care. There are lots of ethical behaviors, how patients feel better treated in one setting or another setting. Again, lots of literature. That can help. But that is the way of getting there. And a great opening. This is something that has been missed, but for me remain in terms of methodological openness and inclusiveness, increase the ability of evaluating all this space of PREMs, PROMs, patient input, real-world evidences, etc. That part of data that are that's the real decentralization. That's the real getting closer where the patient live, the population needs are expressed, and how to treat them.
Thank you. Sandra, I'll ask you this same question before we move on to another question from the audience. So you have a magic wand. Resources are unlimited in HTA bodies. What can HTA bodies do better?
I agree with Andrea for once. Yeah. We are getting there. No, we often agree. I agree with Andrea, and that definitely realizing the whole potential of all the things, of the tools we have been developing to make use of real-world data, to make real-world evidence, available at real time. I think that's one thing that we are in the right path to do. I think it's true we need to be more open in our approaches, more useful. And actually we are doing experiments. I don't know how, probably next year we will be in a position to tell you more. Probably some people in the audience already have these experiences, but we are doing experiments about making capillary the ability to assess, and making sure that what is going on in one place is useful for another to make their own decisions. gathering evidence is a global, I don't know who said it before, it's a global endeavor, making decisions is local. So this kind of capillarity, I think we are in a very good position to do it, but it's true, we need to provide clear guidance, we need to provide support when needed, we need to, I call it kind of alphabetizing in evaluation should be part of everything you do. So I don't know if it's preaching, I don't feel particularly preacher myself, but probably it's that. We need to convince the system that evaluation is something you do because someone needs to authorize. Evaluation should be the key of policy making, and policy making is taking decisions at your own level. So you should know what's going on, and we are here to help. This kind of approach, which is much more pedagogic, much more open, much more serving and putting in the open all the tools that we have available, making them useful, not only for experts, but for any other. That's the kind of experiment we are doing in Catalonia right now. So that's what I'm saying. Probably next year we have something to talk about. Right now we are very excited and think it's very promising. And we are very happy to learn from whoever else is trying to do that.
So does that mean we all have to try to get to Rio to hear what you're going to be up to next year, huh? Okay, we've got a huge amount of fantastic questions from the audience. We've only got a few minutes left, so I can't cover all of them. So we've picked one that has had, in a sense, the most ticks, the most thumbs up. It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
Yeah. So how do the panel see trade-offs between richer and poor countries and between generations as rich nations maximize their health at the expense of other populations?
So that's quite a big one. I had to call this out because it's got a huge amount of votes. So now we're thinking about, in a sense, the sustainability of healthcare systems globally. We're talking about the differences that were drawn out. Every single country has a problem with the distribution of health and equity, but there's always a much wider gap between those countries that have more resources and those that don't. So how can HTA, so we're now thinking, how can HTA help with perhaps the fairer distribution of resources globally? Maybe I'll draw on Adriana for that one first.
Thank you, Carol. What I've been always saying is HTA is much needed where less resources are available. So, but the HTA agencies are mostly in high-income countries. They're not in low and middle-income countries. Now we have many more, and they're starting, but they are the ones that need the most help. So if you have very limited resources, you have to super prioritize them and make sure that whatever you do is good for your population. You cannot spare resources. So how can we learn from the evidence found in high-income countries and then just immediately adopt it and adapt it for those low resource settings? So it will be a win-win for everybody. But and there's even the donors, the emergency situations, the pandemics, in which we really need to focus absolutely on that and then work as a common global public good. It's no longer working in silos and no longer working for A or B or C, but really, how can we share the information? How can we share the outcomes, the data, the evidence? And then how can we support those that have less so that then equity can be risen? And that's the only way we can have a better world in the future. And I think we all have a social and ethical and moral and responsibility, and especially all the community that are here. We really need to work together. We cannot work one by one, but let's do it together, and thank you.
So it's interesting, and it's something that you picked out, a phrase that you use that seems to resonate with lots and lots of the audience because of those questions. HTA as a global public good. You know, if you think about it in that way, just how profound the impact of what we all do can have. And it's probably not a discussion for now, and it's not a discussion we've had before, but maybe that's another discussion we could take forward into Rio. We've got just a few minutes left. I'm so sorry I can't ask any more questions because we're running out of time, because I've got to ask the audience again.
Sorry
to
for
do
the
something.
people who ask questions and we are not able to.
If you want to come up, I don't know if the panelists, but certainly if you want to come up and have a discussion after the session about some of the questions that you raised, more than happy to carry on the conversation. So we're 2 minutes towards the end. I've got to have one more thing to do for you, which is that question again, please, if you wouldn't mind putting it up again. So here we are again, same question, same set of potential answers. What do you think now? And if we could try to have the responses to all 4 bullets up on the screen, that would be really helpful. Yeah, well, that's getting a lot better. Thank you. I'm just going to leave it a few more seconds. Okay, let's, whoa, it's moving too far too quick. Let's just stop there, because I think we have seen a shift, haven't we? We have seen a shift in what people think. Just put it back up again so that people can see. You know, when we started up with this conversation, I think we were all a little bit focused on sort of, HTA, its processes, its methods, the demand. We've got a slight shift now into healthcare systems themselves. I mean, it was an absolute call to action from Professor Atun for us to be more integrated and more aware of the context, the healthcare system context that we all operate in. And I think the debate has brought that out. And I want to ask each of every one of you, thank each and every one of you for contributing to this session. I hope that you go away and have some thoughts, some further discussions. It's one of the themes of this annual meeting, which means that there'll be lots and lots of discussion about this topic of sustainability. You see how wide that topic, that word, touches. And I hope you've really enjoyed the session and enjoy your break. Thanks very much.